Welcome. We have an opportunity today to really get a good sense of what's happening in the Caribbean as a result of the coronavirus and COVID-19, however we refer to it. We have today on UWITV, we have the Director General and CEO of the Caribbean Hotel and Tourism Association, Mr. Frank Comito. Frank, so just give us a sense of where we are at the moment.
Sure. I mean, we actually started summing back in January and started readiness activities with some of our partners at that point, including the Caribbean Public Health Agency, working with CTO as well as the Global Tourism Resilience Center out of UWI, based housed through UWI in Kingston. And what we've been doing is gauging. I mean, we've been doing a number of readiness and monitoring activities, but in terms of the impact in the industry, we really didn't see a massive impact until a couple of weeks ago. Until about 2 weeks ago, there was maybe 6-7% drop in occupancies and advanced bookings. And as the travel advisories started increasing, obviously we started seeing a whole lot more, starting with particularly in particular with Italy, and then as it spread throughout Europe and now into the U.S. and so on. With the reduction in air service, the travel advisories, the concerns of the public, valid concerns, we have seen an acceleration, a rapid acceleration over the past 2 weeks in not only cancellations and lack of access, but also closures, temporary suspension of activity, temporary closings by hotels in the region. You're going to see that ratchet up significantly over the next week or so as well.
Have you found any difficulty among your member associations with agreeing with what many people think are pretty radical decisions by governments to shut down and focus on making sure that you slow down whatever contagion is? Have you seen any resistance in that at all? And some of the things I know, the other thing in terms of policy too, I mean, you began to craft something very early in terms of cancellation policies and how to address with that, because in your initial conversation, people don't seem yet that what is happening as much as anything else. It isn't just simply people are not coming. There are people who were booked to come that have canceled. So that has had an enormous impact on business. So what has been the reaction of your members?
Well, it's varied, but I think the biggest thing was shell shock. I mean, it was just people couldn't believe the what was going on. What we tried to do early on was educate and inform people so they understood how serious it was and the measures they needed to put in place to protect employees as well as guests. And really, to their credit, CARFA did a workshop with us early on in, I think, fourth. We had over 400 participants in that. CARFA also worked with the industry, with CTO and CHTA a few years ago to develop an online confidential monitoring system. So we did a good push to get more hotels signed on to the monitoring system so that they could report incidents or seek professional advice through CARFA as well as local health agency in real time. And a lot of readiness had to go into play and informing and educating the public, because there was a lot of misinformation. There still is a lot of misinformation out there. So we also set up a resource center online called the COVID-19 Caribbean Tourism Resource Center. And that's available through the Caribbean Hotel and Tourism Association website, caribbeanhotelandtourism.com/COVID-19. And there's a lot of tools and information on there that we've been pushing. We're updating it constantly. As Vincent, as you said, we established some guidelines for cancellations because we were concerned about the image of the industry as well as the need to recapture some of that business that we would lose. So we encouraged guidelines, minimal types of standards for guidelines for cancellations by hotels, and also provided links. We provide online links to the cancellation policies of various brands and so on. So I mean, we've just tried to be a resource and a conduit for good current information, and working with all of our CTOs, CARFA, and the Resilience Center, we've been able to garner other kinds of information, make sure it's current and relevant, and helping our people as much as possible. Getting is going to be very difficult, but we will get through it. And I think that's the key message is we have a track record, particularly tourism is incredibly resilient and it does rebound. There's historical evidence that's indisputable in that regard for the entire region. So, but it's going to be difficult. We've never seen anything like this.
Yeah, so I mean, certainly when we talk about what's happening within the region, I don't think anybody who will argue that we need to have much better intra-Caribbean air transportation. But also at the same time, I don't think you're going to find anybody who is going to argue that we absolutely need to have carriers, the global branded carriers, bringing people into the Caribbean also. So we need both. There's no question of that. But you know, I think it's important for us to talk a little bit about what has happened in the past. So H1N1 didn't come close to this, SARS didn't come close to this, but we have a track record in the Caribbean of the private and public sector getting together in order to make sure that we come out of this the bang, as opposed to coming out of it, easing our way out of it. And so just talk a little bit about the lessons that we have from the past in terms of how we work together, private public sector, in order to begin to ensure that once we get the all clear, that we are in the forefront of taking up whatever spent up demand that is there.
I don't see any indication of any downsides yet. I think even though different countries have handled this in different ways in the region, I think they've all, you know, their intentions have been the best, and they've all done what they felt was best for their nations. I think CARFA, the Caribbean Public Health Agency, which was formed by CARICOM a number of years ago, has an incredibly positive and constructive mindset about tourism, about its importance. I think the region, the governments of the region have a good mindset about tourism and its importance, which we didn't see 20 years ago. And I think that's positive. I think people realize that that this is a core strength of our economic and livelihood, and we need to protect and enhance it. So I see a lot of positive. Of course, anything could happen silly. I think we've got to address the cruise industry in a different way than we have in the past. They've had their challenges with this. They do a lot of good things, but they need to do a whole lot better for the Caribbean, not only for tourism, but for the countries of the Caribbean. And I think there may be a lesson learned out of this on that we may be able to pull them in and work with them in a way which we haven't been able to date. So there may be some positive out. I know globally they're taking a big image hit, and they'll continue to take that hit. So they're going to need us more than we need them, I believe, at this point, as countries, not necessarily the hotel part of the industry, but we're all in this together, and I think they need to change their behaviors regarding the region as well. Environmental practices in terms of how they work with us in terms of revenue retention, increasing the revenue retention into the region and being a better player that way. We shall see if that happens, but I think it's an opportunity. But we've got a lot of work ahead of us, and I think we've got a lot of good willing people and some incredible people in our destinations on the public and private sector side. And I think we're going to be our way through this if we make solid commitments to collaborate, coordinate, and work together.
I will wager that the Caribbean is going to come out of this looking even better for a very peculiar reason. I mean, I am very much surprised at a region that is the most tourism dependent region in the world, that many of our countries were ahead of many of the other countries in the world and ahead of some of the other states in the world in doing the right kinds of things. So I'm really very proud of the region in terms of focusing on doing the right thing, despite knowing that this was going to take an enormous hit on certainly our economies. You know, one of the areas, Frank, that was going quite rapidly before we started going through what we're going through now was the peer-to-peer, and you had a lot more individuals who were directly involved in providing services and receiving income directly from visitors. Any thoughts on whether you think that's going to continue, to what degree that is affecting the hotel sector in terms of that business? What are your thoughts on that? I mean, a lot of people at a number of destinations by the hundreds were beginning to host people directly, and many people saw it as a very positive thing. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's a positive thing. I think it's and we've been doing a lot of research and work with the whole sharing economy sector for about 5 years. Um, I think it's just as we've said for a number of years, and many governments are moving in that direction. It just needs to be better regulated and taxed. And I think under these circumstances, we're even seeing some areas where the regulatory part needs to be strengthened. We're seeing that as a result of this crisis situation as well. I think it's an opportunity for lessons learned, and how do we get better at not only regulating it but taxing it, but also how do we recognize that there's work to do, both public and private sector. To Neil's point, capacity building. How do we strengthen their ability as owners of small little enterprises that are trying to get a small slice of the pie, but they want a slice of the pie? So we're embarking right now at CHDA on a series of trainings and webinars to help improve during this downtime. How do you improve your capacity and your capability to be more effective operationally, service-wise? I mean, a range of areas. There's a great opportunity now to broaden training. As I was listening to Neil, we should be doing training for taxi drivers, for vendors, and other kinds of things right now. We, the collective we, it's not just on CHDA, but as we're looking at our training, I'm looking at subject areas that we're going to cover in training, and I'm listening to Neil earlier, and I'm saying, well, geez, there's other kinds of training that we can do, and awareness and capacity building, and even coping with stress. How do you manage your money during these difficult times? What difficulties a lot of our people are going through. There's some goodwill kinds of things that are important to people's livelihoods that we could do now as well. Unfortunately, we don't have an incredible safety net. We have some destinations like that have national insurance that or unemployment insurance that'll cover people partially in bad times. We have some companies that do incredible things with their employees, but not all have the capability to do that. Some of them don't have the mindset they should to do that. But how do we improve that kind of engagement as well to the benefit of our people? I mean, we're a people business, and we're going to rebound, and those companies and destinations that rebound faster are going to rebound in part because their people are embracing tourism again. And if a company is not treating their employees as best as they could, again, everybody has their own circumstances and may not have the financial wherewithal to help out employees during these difficult times. But those that are able to will see that returned in the level of loyalty and hospitality, and it's the customers that are going to feel that more than the companies ultimately, and ultimately I guess the companies as well. So there's some other things we can do. This session's just helping me to look at our training approach and our readiness approach a little differently.
Before we end, what I'd like to talk a little bit about is, where do we go from here? What is it that we need to do on behalf of the industry and the people in the region to make sure we are delivering the very best outcome once the all clear is given? What are some of your thoughts?
What we're seeing in the region we're seeing pockets of collaboration, and I want to underscore this word collaboration, because we talk it a lot, but we don't do it sufficiently well enough at both the local and the regional level. But we've got our ear to the ground, and we're watching how a number of destinations over the past week, some are working very effectively within their own sectors, as well as with government as well, public and private sector. And we're seeing that. And I think those destinations that are out of the gate already in that area are going to come back faster. Uh, we need to see more of that throughout the region, and as organizations, both CTO and CHTA, and with support from others, I think we need to lead on that. We've done some things in the past collaboratively. Some of them we've done well, some of them we've struggled with. CTO and CHTA, public and private sector, and broadening it even beyond our traditional sphere of participation, even though CTO's mandated with countries that are member countries, looking at how do we go beyond that. Same thing with CHTA, how do we go beyond the traditional participants, if you will, of destinations and federation members in the region. So we need to challenge ourselves, because this requires a level of collaboration, coordination, resource sharing, unlike we've never seen before for our industry. And from our end, I know our leadership wants to commit to that, and I believe that sense exists in many of the destinations that CTO represents as well. There's a great opportunity here. It would be a shame to waste it.
There are a lot of people sitting at home now. They have nowhere to go to work because of what has happened in the industry. There are some places we can steer them to go take a look at improving their skills, their knowledge, their capacity to deliver even better when it comes out. What can we, where can we point them? Frank, I think you got some stuff you can talk about there.
Yeah, I mean, we just had a conversation this morning with our education foundation, and we've got a task force that we're putting together tomorrow. I think we're meeting tomorrow or Wednesday to discuss a range of types of training, types of things that we can do. What are the subject areas? But not only in terms of skills types of training, but coping types of training, and looking ahead, what are the marketing and public relations strategies that could be, adopted and developed and shared and so on. So we're getting ready to rev up a lot of training, and I think if we can do more of that with our education foundation, doing it with some of the institutions that we've worked with on scholarship programs in the past, like UWI, like FIU, like Johnson and Wales, and so on, and La Roche, and so we're actually starting those discussions in earnest, and we should take advantage of this. I don't know how long the downtime, the ice is going to be. It could be anywhere from a couple of weeks to months, and so we need to ready ourselves now.
And if somebody wants to find that information, they'll have it on the CHTA site for a link for people to go and take a look at, I'm sure.
Right, we're developing it. Right, we're just having the conversations in the past couple of days, and we're formalizing a task force on Wednesday to look at the various optional approaches that we have for some of this.
Any closing comments?
Yeah, I just think that, I mean, we've got to be mindful that we're going to get through all of this, and we will be better ultimately as a result of it, despite the temporary dark clouds that's hovering over us. The sun shines on the Caribbean always, and I'm confident we'll continue to do so. And as we come through this, the world will need the Caribbean to help it to heal, and I think we will be ready for that.